So I hope you enjoy it, and I will not run a lecture full of slides, so I will require a bit your participation, and I hope we all have fun in this session. All right, let me start. I think we all agree that the internet is a great invention, that's for sure. And one of the key features of it, and the one that probably makes it most famous, is its packet switching capability. This is what allowed communications to be preserved even if some nodes of the network failed, for example, in case of a nuclear explosion. So, as it is explained there, everything on the internet is broken into small pieces or packets, and these packets are sent through the network, and they can take different ways. That's also a very important feature, depending on the most efficient paths or the paths of less resistance, depending on how the network is configured. Something that is very interesting is that every source and destination has an IP address. And I was having lunch with a lot of IP lawyers, intellectual property, but this is all about the internet protocol, IP. In what I'm going to say during this class, IP is internet protocol, not intellectual property. So anyway, this is more or less how it works. Big things like videos or calls or emails are cut into small pieces. Each piece has an IP address, and those are sent all around the network and then assembled in the destination. And that's why if the network is a bit slow or latency is very big, then you have a bit of bad quality voices or videos. But let me tell you something. That is the key feature of the internet. Everybody knows that. But for me, there is something even more interesting or more beautiful about this invention. And this is the way in which the internet growth has been coordinated. And these calls, I mean, this has been the emergence of very innovative organizations that have kept the internet running. So these institutions or organizations are the ones responsible for preserving a unique, unfragmented, open, and global network by managing in a very particular way, according to very specific internet principles, these resources and keeping the internet protocol evolving. So that is what this session will be about. So I will talk a bit about the internet protocol, the technical ways, but mostly around the coordination mechanisms and the way that these are established. I will start with the easy bits, sort of roles and responsibilities from different organizations. And when we know the roles of these organizations, we will actually build a network and connect devices and then see some of the challenges that the fast growth of the network is imposing over the coordination mechanisms. So this is the first part of the game, and the first thing I'd like is to learn a little bit about you. So if I may, I would like to ask those of you that come from technical background, meaning computer scientists or those that work in an internet service provider or in a network operator or from an engineering background, to please stand up. All those engineers. Excellent. So can I ask you guys on the back to come? I need at least 5 technical people to come to the front. You are going to be the International Telecommunications Union, and you are going to be the IGF, the Internet Governance Forum. Okay, This is not a full game. It is just a short way to introduce the most important thing in this class, which is inside here. Here is a box with most critical internet resources. You can sit down. I'm sorry I don't have a role for you.
Oh dear. Saved my life.
But there is still more after this. So this box is full of internet addresses, and these are very important resources for keeping the network running. And I will just go from one to the other to explain a bit the roles and responsibilities of these organizations. So obviously, the first thing of the Internet Protocol is how this works. So how the format of these addresses is, what is the length, how devices should be using it. And this is essential for the devices to understand each other on the network. And where do you think these standards are being set in order for this to work? IETF, the Internet Engineering Task Force. I don't know if someone hasn't heard about the IETF in this class. Everybody knows it? Oh, so I can run very quickly. You haven't. Well, the IETF is a very important organization, as you may know, and something that is also very important is that the standards are made openly in an unlicensed fashion by the community in these documents called the RFCs, exactly. And the RFCs explains a lot about how these resources should work. And the IETF is an organization whose umbrella organization is the Internet Society that also has a wider mission to advocate for an open internet, and it has a lot of chapters around the world. You might all be experts on all of these, so I will just run very quickly. So you are the first one that has defined this, right? Now, here is a bit of a trick, because who manages these resources, the internet addressing resources? Really?
It is given to the RIRs. Actually manage it. Who again give it to the NIRs and the ISPs.
So I don't know if you have read Kilnam's book, but who was first, the RIRs or ICANN?
The numbers were given by... IANA was constituted later.
What, Adam?
Well, I work for ICANN, so I'll call you Dad.
Well, Kilnam should know better. He has wrote 3 decades of internet history, particularly in Asia Pacific. But the actual organizations predate the existence of ICANN. But indeed, IANA, which is the critical function at the global level, was the key administrator where all the numbers came from. So that's why I put IANA next to him. And you are the global distributor of these resources. Now, how do you distribute these resources among the 5 RIRs personified in these 3 friends? Do you know? Do you just decide how you're going to distribute these resources there?
Yeah, so why not?
Yes, just authoritatively you will say, I will give it and you will choose one of them. It doesn't actually work like that because the regional internet registries, which are the ones in charge of being the custodians of these resources, have communities at the regional level. And these communities actually discuss the way in which these resources are going to be distributed, particularly to all the network operators in the region. But also they aggregate views among themselves on how IANA will distribute these resources to themselves. So actually, it is not you necessarily that give these resources according to your own process. It is actually the processes from the communities in the 5 RIRs that once they agree and then aggregate their views, they tell IANA how to distribute these resources. And obviously, in this case, IANA is going to give these critical internet resources to APNIC. Unfortunately, these resources are scarce, and you RIRs are left without other resources, so you may take a seat now. Please. No, the community has adopted that measure in a bottom-up fashion. Actually, I understand that Jeremy was talking about deliberative democracy and the multi-stakeholder model this morning. And it works a bit like that. It is a process of aggregating different communities' views until a consensus is reached and a decision is being made. And that is more or less how the whole coordination system works, from standards up to policies for distribution of IP resources. Now, what is the role of these guys? The International Telecommunications Union is an agency of the United Nations. It's an intergovernmental organization. And along these years, it's a members-based organization. So obviously, you do what your members tell you, but you also have some initiatives on your own ITU. And somehow across the years, you have said, well, probably this model of decision-making is not working very well. Probably in the view of some of your members, this aggregation of policies is a little bit inefficient or a little bit chaotic. So you sometimes would like to put a bit more order. So you have affected the ecosystem in a way that you have added the question mark whether it should be led by the private sector or the government. And also, you know, a bit of a history in which the IANA function performed by ICANN is overseen by the US government by a specific contract. And who hasn't heard about the IANA contract with the US government? So you are all experts in this, right? Anyway, so in this past couple of decades, there has been this tension between sort of a private sector multi-stakeholder model and the governmental approach to things. And a very particular forum where this has been discussed very much around other matters, not only the Internet protocol and the addresses, is the Internet Governance Forum. It has obviously a global forum that has happened in the last 10 years. Last year, it had a renewed mandate for other 10 more years. And it is UN-led, but it's a multi-stakeholder forum as well. Who of you has attended the Internet Governance Forum or any of the regional or national IGFs? Very good. And the others, have you heard about the IGF or are planning to attend? Yeah? All right. So I just wanted to make sure that you understood more or less that this is an ecosystem and that the coordination model for distributing these critical resources is not trivial. So I will ask everyone except APNIC to stay with the box, and the other ones to please take your seats. Thank you. Yes, please. You need to help me distribute these resources across the room. So as I've said, there is a a number of organizations that are dedicated to preserve global, unique, unfragmented, open network through the technical coordination of these key resources. And I started with resources from the Internet Protocol that are IP addresses. So is it okay if you can help me distribute these IP addresses across the room? So you will have, and you can give almost one packet to each person. Don't give more, because if not, you will fail policy.
You want me to distribute?
I think, yes, if you can. Thank you. I'll go on the back.
I run out the resources.
Oh, that problem sounds familiar to me. I don't know why.
Who's not got?
My resources.
You're getting the packet. Ooh, this is IPv6. Who's not got? Thank you.
So everybody got resources from APNIC already?
We have an extra packet. Let's set it in black. As it happens when we mark it.
All right. Very good. You can open the bundle if you want and take a look at it. So what do you see in the cards? Numbers. What kind of numbers? Binary numbers, and then their equivalent in decimal. Do you know how to convert binary into decimal? It's easy, and you can Google it. It's easier. But each of those numbers has their binary connection. What else do you see there in your cards?
There's a symbol.
Symbol? What symbol? Like a planet.
This is how you denote a male in biology.
Well, yes, and it is also the symbol of Mars. It says Mars there, isn't it? So, you have Neptune, and who else? Venus. Yes, networks happen in places, believe it or not. It's not only a virtual world. They actually sort of are built by real people, real engineers in real locations, right? And in this game, it is the economies, the economic unit are the planets. So you have Neptune, Mercury, Venus, Mars, etc. What else do you see in the cards? Different devices, right? There are smartphones and PCs, and also this thing called the Internet of Things, like cameras and then
The arrows.
security cameras, Internet of Things, yes. And then what else do you see? Well, there are magic cards, right? The red ones. What are the red cards? You don't know?
IPGO written.
Huh?
Internet protocol.
These are the routers. Actually, they are essential bits to connect all these devices. Actually, the purpose of this game is to connect all these devices together into a network. So actually, what we're going to do in the next half an hour or so is try to build a network in order for all your devices, and probably even more, to be able to interconnect. So are you with me in trying to build that network to interconnect these 256 devices around this group? So it's not an easy task to actually do, to interconnect these devices. And the purpose of this game is to build a network to do that. And obviously, for that purpose, we will be using a lot these red cards, okay? So anything else you notice in the cards? I think we have described almost anything with the exception of one
The color blue,
critical thing.
the colors,
Well, yes, the colors.
the top.
Exactly. There are some geometric figures there,
Red or white.
isn't it? These are very important, and we call them autonomous systems, AS numbers. And actually, that is the critical thing to build networks, and I will explain to you why these are very important. So I am going to explain sort of this is a game, and then I'm going to explain how it works in the real world. But the first thing I want you to do is to group into shapes. So I would like to ask all of those that have a triangle to please stand up and meet around here.